back to the Spider's Web, and thank you to Hardyhood1 for welcoming me to Fallcrest. His message was, "Welcome to Fallcrest, many adventures and treasures abound." Well, thanks for the welcome. Also, before we carry on with the gameplay, I would like to also say hello to all my new subscribers. I now have 90. This is absolutely astounding for me. I've not been doing this channel for 12 months yet, so 90 subscribers in that time I'm absolutely astounded by, and I would like to thank everybody for subscribing, and I hope you're enjoying all the videos I've put. Now, Terry Sims is the person we need to thank for this one, because he has voted and is the only person who has to recommend what I do is promise to bring the goblins to justice for the crime. So if that's what he wants me to do, that's what we'll do. So let's get cracking. You have a passion for justice and righting wrongs. The merchant looks at you admiringly and promises you a reward of 30 gold pieces if you return the stolen item. It's a small wooden box with a lock, he explains. He asks you not to look in the box if you find it, blushing slightly as he explains that the contents are personal. This is another major quest you can add to your character sheet. You might have a lawful good alignment. Alignment is a simplified designation of your character's dedication to a set of moral principles. Lawful good characters respect the authority of personal codes of conduct, laws and leaders, and they believe that those codes are the best way of achieving their ideals. Just authority promotes the well-being of its subjects and prevents them from harming one another. Lawful good characters believe strongly in the value of life, and they put tremendous emphasis on the need for the powerful to protect the weak and lift up the downtrodden. The exemplars of the lawful good alignment are shining champions of what's right, honourable and true, risking or even sacrificing their lives to stop the spread of evil in the world. If this sounds like what you have in mind for your character, write lawful good in the alignment space. Okay. So, under the alignments, lawful good, and in character notes, another major quest would be to find the box. I'll make a note of that. Find the merchant's box. Okay, so it says, if it sounds like what you have in mind for your character, write lawful good in the alignment space on your character sheet and go on to number 55. Okay, number 55. In the next section of the adventure, you can't rely on your character's combat abilities. You need to use your wits and your character's skills to succeed. Whatever class you're playing, it's time to determine a little more about what your character can do outside a combat encounter. So it gives me the choice if I'm playing a fighter, a wizard, a rogue or a cleric. Well, I'm playing a cleric, so I go to number 59. Okay. As a cleric, you've already filled in your wisdom and constitution scores on your character sheet. If you didn't fill in your constitution before, go back to 36 to fill in your constitution, hit points, then return here. Now it's time to fill in the rest of your ability scores. The other 4 ability scores are strength, dexterity, intelligence and charisma. Strength measures your physical power. Dexterity measures coordination, agility and balance. Intelligence describes how well you learn and reason. And charisma measures force of personality and leadership. I must admit, I'm really glad I'm playing a role-playing game, because none of this actually means anything to me whatsoever. Okay, you can assign the following scores to to those 4 abilities. So strength, according to this, is 14. Strength is 14. Dexterity is 12. Intelligence is 11. And charisma is 10. Just in case you're wondering how I know these numbers, it basically tells me in this passage. So it says you can assign the following scores to those 4 abilities: 14, 12, 11 and 10. You decide which score goes to each ability depending on whether you imagine... Right, okay. So that will teach me to read things through first before making assumptions, because I assumed that I did them in order of what it was, but that's not necessarily it. So I'm going to rearrange these then. So I'm going to have intelligence at 14. I'm going to have strength at 11. I'm going to have dexterity at 10. No, 12. No, 10. I'm going to have dexterity at 10. And I'm going to have charisma at 11. No, sorry, strength is 11, isn't it? So I'm going to have charisma at... What's 14? Intelligence 14. What's 12? Right, I'm going to have charisma at 12. Sorry. I got myself really confused then. Okay. If your race also influences your ability scores, if you're playing dwarf, you get halfling help. If you're playing a human, you've already got +2 to your wisdom. Okay. Once you've assigned your ability scores, look at the table in the sidebar on page 20. Okay. Find your score for each ability on the table to determine your modifier for that ability. So 10 or 11, you don't get any modifiers. So dexterity has a 0 modifier and strength has a 0 modifier. That may not be good. 12 or 13 gets a +1. 14 or 15 gets a +2. Okay, so that's them all. Right. Let's go back to where I was reading. Skills are essentially extensions of your ability scores. A skill check works just like an attack roll. You roll a d20, add your skill check modifier and see if the result is high enough to achieve what you want to do. The starting point for your skill check modifier is the ability modifier for the ability the skill is based on. For example, athletics is based on strength, so when you try to climb a sheer surface, you make an athletics check, which is a specialised strength check. As a cleric, you start with training in religion and then gain training in 3 more skills. 4 more skills if you're playing a human cleric, which I am. You can choose these additional skills from this list: Arcana, Diplomacy, Heal, History and Insight. See the skills sidebar on page 21 for a brief description of what those skills are good for. Your character's history can play a major role in determining your skills. Okay, let's have a look. Right, well, first of all, I want a wisdom based skill for heal, which allows me to perform first aid and stabilise allies who are dying. So, what do I need? Okay, so I need, it's wisdom based skills I'm going for then. Is there anything on here which caps? Right, so I'll see what he says for the rest of it. Okay, let's go. Right, you see the skills sidebar on page 21 for a brief description of what those skills are good for. Your character's history can play a major role in determining your skills. Training in Arcana and History might indicate an academic background that complemented your study of religion, while training in Diplomacy and Insight might mean that you are a temple priest before taking up arms to fight for God's cause. Training in Heal might indicate a military background as a combat medic, or it could reflect your dedication to the health and well-being of your allies. When you choose training in a skill, put an X or check mark in the trained box next to your skill's name for your character sheets. Training gives you a +5 bonus to checks you make with that skill. For each trained skill, add 5 to the appropriate ability modifier and write the total down in the check space for that skill. Okay, so I want heal first, so I will cross trained out, which will give me +9 and +9 modifier. What else do I need? History and religion. I will go with history and religion, so it's 5, 6, 7 on those, +7 on each of those, and another one more, which is let's see, diplomacy, I think, which will give me +6. Okay, next, you should now have 2 major quests noted on your character sheet. Identify the mysterious rider and find the stolen box. Those 2 quests might take you in the same direction, or they might lead to 2 separate adventures. You might decide to head off in the direction you saw the rider go, or you could try to determine which way the goblins went, or you could check to see if any of the goblins that fell during the fight are still alive and able to give you information. So what do I want to do? Do I want to follow the rider? Do I want to track the goblins to the lure? Or do I want to question a goblin survivor? Well, as I said, Terry Sims wants me to make the goblins pay, so that is what I'm going to do. So I'm not going to follow the rider as yet. Now I've got the choice between tracking the goblins or questioning the goblin survivor. Well, without information I can't really do much, so I better check to see if there's a goblin survivor and question him. So I go to 74 and it says a couple of goblins lie dead and dying, a couple of goblins lie dead or dying around the wagon. You might be able to stabilise one enough to talk to you. Make a heal check to see if you can keep a dying goblin alive long enough to provide you with information. Heal is based on wisdom, so if you're trained in heal, you make a wisdom check with a +5 bonus, otherwise it's just a wisdom check. Roll a d20 and add your heal check modifier. Okay, so I make a heal check modifier. And here's the tablets again, and I that's a 9, and my heal check modifier is 9, so that's 18. I'm hoping I'm doing this correctly. So did you get a total of 8 or better? Well, yes, I did, without the modifier. So I go to 75. The goblin groans and its eyes flutter open. When it can focus enough to see you, it squeaks in terror and begins to crawl away from you. You can try and soothe the goblin's fear and use diplomacy to get information from it, or you can play on its fear and use intimidate to make it tell you what you want to know. So do I want to use diplomacy or intimidate? Well, I've crossed out diplomacy that I've been trained in, so no point in trying to intimidate it, so I may as well use diplomacy. So I make a diplomacy check to see if I can calm down the goblin and convince it to tell you why the goblins attacked the merchants and where the goblin's lure is, and maybe even who the mysterious rider was. Diplomacy is based on charisma, so if you're trained in diplomacy you make a charisma check with a +5 bonus. Otherwise it's just a charisma check. So I roll a d20 again. Oh, this time it's a 1. And my diplomacy is 6, so that's 7. Did you get a total of... I got a total of less than 8, so I go to passage number 80. The goblin's fear of you is so strong and its injury so severe that it can't or won't give you any useful information. If you want to try and intimidate instead, go to 81. If you want to try a different approach, go back to 60. Well, I'm going to try intimidate this time. I know it's not going to, I'm not trained in it, so I don't get any modifiers in it, but let's have a try. Looming over the injured goblin, you exert all the force of your personality to threaten it into submission. So I'll make an intimidate check to see if I can force it to tell me why the goblins attacked the merchants, where the goblin lure is, and maybe even who the mysterious rider was. Intimidate is based on charisma, so if you're trained in intimidate you make a charisma check with a +5 bonus. Otherwise it's just a charisma check. So I roll a d20 and see how it goes. Fingers crossed. I get 11. Ooh. Okay, so I go to passage number 79. You manage to convince the goblin with its last breath to tell you where the goblin's lure. Following the goblin's directions gets you to the goblin's lure without alerting the other goblins to your approach. So I now go to passage number 83. You found the goblin's lure, but before you begin to explore it and deal with the goblin's lure... Sorry, start that one again. You found the goblin lure. Before you begin to explore it and deal with the goblin's lure though, it's time to flesh out your character a little bit more. You should have this information filled in on your character sheet already. Your character's name, your class, your character's race, the alignment, the experience points earned so far, ability scores and trained skills, armour class, attack bonus and damage with your weapon of choice, and your hit points, blooded value, yearly surges, blah 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 blah. Now if you found a few extra pieces of information, start with your level, which is 1. Okay, so level 1. As you earn more XP you will gain levels. That's fine. Fill in your initiative modifier. This is the same as your dexterity modifier and you use it in combat to determine the order in which characters and monsters take their turns. So initiative modifier, okay, it's the same as, what is it? Dexterity. Oh, so I have a 0 dexterity modifier. Oh, sorry, zero. I have a 0 dexterity modifier, so I have a 0 initiative. Brilliant. Next, fill in the passive insight and passive perception. Your passive insight is 10 plus your insight check. So passive, oh, it's there, sorry, I can see it now. Yes, it's right, which one do I put it in? Oh, perception is 10 and insight is 10. Okay, sorry about that. I finally found it. Let me just show you what's on my sheet now. It might be the easiest option. Okay, so I have a strength of 11 with a 0 modifier. I have 13 constitution with a +1 modifier. I have 10 dexterity with 0 modifier. 14 intelligence with a +2 modifier. And I am trained in history and religion, which gives me a +7 modifier in both of those. 18 wisdom with a +4 modifier. I'm trained in heal, which gives me +9, and my insight and perception is 10. And then charisma is 12 with a +1 modifier, and I'm trained in diplomacy, which gives me +6. I have power brand of the sun. If I come back up to the top again, I have initiative of 0. I have an armor class of 18. I have +6 attack bonus with my mace and +4 attack bonus with implement, which is magic, I think, if I remember rightly. 25 hit points and 12 bloodied, and I can use 6 healing surges or 8 healing surges per day, or 8 surges per day, or healing surge value is 6, sorry, and I can use 8 per day. My current hit points out of the 24 I started with is, out of the 25 I started with, I have 21. They were the temporary ones that I got with the battle with the goblins. As I said, I've got my name at the top, cleric, level 1, human, male, lawful good, and my major quests rather, find rider and learn the ID, and find the merchant's box. And that is what I've got on my list on my character sheet. So just to show you that I'm not just marking things down,